All right, we're live on both Discord and live on video. I'm going to go ahead and start the 10 seconds of silence in 3, 2.
Coming to you direct from Silencer Shop Studios, home of the glass case of emotion.
Silencershop.com, the easiest way to buy silencers online, period.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Yes, indeed, it is I, and it's time for another Student of the Gun Radio. Thank you for joining me today. In the studio, or in one of the studios, because we're all connected live via satellite, we have Dr. Dan Olesnicky and his partner in crime, Ron. And Ron, I don't know your last name, so you shall be known as Ron. How's that sound?
I think that works. It's Batista, but we'll go with just
Batista, like the wrestler.
Yep.
Oh well, that's easy to remember.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to see Ron in tights.
Any relation?
No, definitely not.
You wish you were. You get front row seats to all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
That's true. Pretty much.
You could go to the premieres and everything. But and of course, in the Salt Lake City studio, the Salt Lake City satellite studio. Say that 5 times fast, freaks. We've got Jared. Jared, is the sound bouncing off the wooden walls there?
It is. It is bouncing off. It's actually absorbing into the wooden walls. So there's that.
That's right. It's the walls are absorbing the bad noise and saving the good noise.
Yes, that is.
That's what we do here in the padded wall studio up high atop the mountain. Now, for those of you that don't know, because you're new to this whole Student of the Gun thing, Dr. Dan is the owner of SWAT Fuel. He also does a bunch of other stuff. He's a doctor. He's a SWAT medic. He's a SWAT doc, I guess you could say. And he writes books, and he does briefings and teaching, and he does speaking. But one thing that we have been working with Dr. Dan for a long time on is SWAT Fuel, and the idea that American humans can indeed be fit and healthy regardless of their age. Would you say that is a true statement, Dr. Dan?
Absolutely. And the fitter you are, the healthier you are, and happier you are.
Exactly. We understand, or at least we should understand, that owning stuff is not enough. I know this show is called Student of the Gun, but Student of the Gun is all about being a beginner once and a student for life. And part of being a student is to educate yourself continuously. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they learn what they learn in elementary school or high school or whatever, and then they stop. For instance, food pyramids and nutrition information and exercise information and so forth. And they learn that and they're like, okay, I learned it. For instance, I was of the 70s generation. And when I was in elementary school, there was a food pyramid. And it said, you should eat these things. And then, things changed. And we went from food pyramids to macros. And my caveman brain was like, what? What is this all about? And what's funny when you learn about macros and that everything we consume is in one of 4 categories. And what are those categories, Dr. Dan?
So you want my 4 categories?
Well, I know what your number 4 is, but I want you to tell the audience.
All right. So your body chemically sees 4 things. It sees fat, it sees protein, it sees sugar, and undigestible, which is either, it's fiber. So
Corn
you
husks.
can't digest it. Corn husks, or it could be Volkswagen parts. It's still undigestible.
Either way, it's coming out the other end.
Exactly. So that's it. Those are your real 4 food groups on a chemical level. And if it's not oil and it didn't have a mama, then it's going to be sugar. Period.
Right. So, and when you look at the old food pyramid, you realize you're like, most of the stuff that they were telling me to eat was all carbohydrates. It was all sugar.
All sugars.
And
dairy is another thing that is very interesting that we're learning more and more about. But dairy, although it actually has protein and nutrients and all sorts of things in it, when you look at milk, what is milk designed to do for a baby?
Give it everything it needs.
Right. But most importantly, make it fat so it survives the first winter. So what does it do to us? It makes us fat so we survive the first winter.
There you go.
When they were telling you to drink all this milk in the 70s, what did we all do? We all ballooned. We all got hefty.
Well, part of the reason we got hefty is because the American human doesn't get up every day, go out in a field and work. The funny thing is my great grandfather had a farm. He had an actual working dairy farm and so forth, but he didn't have 2 ounces of extra weight on him. But he ate, steak and potatoes and drank whole milk and all that. You know why? Because Grandpa got up every single day before the sun was up and worked all day long, and then went to bed by 8 exhausted.
Yeah, he burned it off. The other thing is sleep. It's very interesting, but one of the reasons we pack on weight is because we go to sleep too late. And if you go to sleep at 8 or 9 and you wake up at 4:30, 5 in the morning, right when the sun comes up, that's actually the natural rhythm that your body's supposed to run on. Sleep before midnight is 5 times more restful than sleep after midnight. And if the earlier you get to bed and the earlier you get up, the more in sync you are with the natural rhythms of the body. And what happens actually is you burn off more calories and you store less fat.
It was almost like Benjamin Franklin knew what he was talking about.
Something like that. I don't know.
Something like that.
But
Zach's giving me the face. He's like, Benjamin Franklin? Yeah.
What does he have to do with all this?
Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Didn't Franklin say that? Franklin said a lot of things. I'm going to go ahead and get
a lot of things. I'm not sure who said it, but it does work. That is absolutely correct. And this is, again, history repeats itself yet again.
We've talked previously about how we as a culture, we consider ourselves to be so modern and so elite and so advanced. But the fact of the matter is the human body is the human body. And sure, over the last 1,000 years, we might have, gained an inch or two or what have you, but you're still living in the same body that people were living in before electricity.
Absolutely. And we're still meant to run on the same food. Nothing processed. The body knows what to do with whole foods and unprocessed food much better than it does with processed. And it completely confuses the body what's happening when we have easy energy. And the body actually stores most of that as fat. So you really, in my personal opinion, I'm not a person who follows a diet. I'm a person who looks at what I put into my body as essentially everything being a drug, whether it's you're talking about supplements, medications, or food. To your body, they all have some sort of effect. And if you eat a carbohydrate meal, it has a certain effect on your body. If you eat certain vegetables or certain plants, whether they're fermented or not, they have completely different effects on your body. And then proteins, as well as timing of nutrients. These are all important things. So, when we look at nutrition, it's more than just taking supplements. It's more than diet. It's when you sleep, when you exercise, how you exercise, what you're going to get. And when we created SWAT Fuel, what I like to say is we're attempting to achieve a heroic physique, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, fit is hard to kill, and that's why it's relevant in this arena on Student of the Gun. You want to be in shape so that you can handle whatever situation is out there. It's not enough owning guns. It's not enough doing static drills. You have to do dynamic drills. You have to train like you fight, but you also have to train so that you're going to survive the fight. And a lot of that has to do with, again, diet, supplementation, sleep patterns, and exercise. You got to do it all.
Exactly.
I want to go back to something he said earlier, where he said that he doesn't follow a diet. And that's something I've been saying since we started the Fighting Fitness segment, which Fighting Fitness is on Thursdays. It's actually brought to you by SWAT Fuel, coincidentally. But I've been saying this for a long time, is that diets are temporary. If you put it in your mind that, oh, I'm going to do this diet for 30 days or whatever, or I'm going to get on this diet and it'll help me fix the problem that I've got, it's probably not the case, because diets are always going to be temporary. You actually, and I think before I called it like a lifestyle change, sounds kind of weird, but that's what it is. You have to change the way that you think about food. And with our journey, Dad and I specifically, lifting over the past, since we started starting strength, we've had the luxury of just being able to eat pretty much whatever we want, because we have to get the gains. And with the amount of calories that we burn while we're lifting, we're able to put more food into our body. Now, obviously, the quality of food, the quality of protein, the quality of fats, it still makes a difference of what you actually put into your body. And that's kind of something that I wanted to get your opinion on, Dan, is what is, or is there an importance of the quality of protein that you put into your body?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to the point of insanity. When you look at just our quest to create the 44 Magnum protein powder, that was on the border of insanity, because there's so many protein powders out there. Remember, we discussed years ago that I didn't think I was going to put out a protein powder, because there's so many out there that it's very difficult to compete. So we actually did a complete different philosophy in the protein, and we don't mass manufacture our protein. And we actually had to check all the different whey proteins that are out there and see what was hormone free. And we finally got to Australia and New Zealand, where they essentially have these massive, hundreds of thousands of acre ranches, where they just let cattle graze, and they don't use any hormones or pesticides or anything. They just let them loose, and then they come in and then they get the milk from the cows. And they're truly grass-fed. The stuff we have out here, unfortunately, in the United States, there's so many pesticides in the water and so many hormones and antibiotics that we put into our cattle. Even the organic stuff gets estrogens from the water supply. So everything we tested in the US came back positive for estrogens. So you don't want those additional hormones in your body. And even just as a source of whey protein, we had to go and really scour the earth and look for the best, cleanest stuff that's out there. Why? Because you don't need the phytoestrogens or the estrogens that are in the whey protein sabotaging your own testosterone. And if you're a female, your own natural estrogen. It actually screws up your own hormones. Looking at meats that you eat or protein that you eat, wild caught fish is probably the best. Then you have organic eggs, as well as any kind of wild game. So if you're looking at the best thing to eat, it's really going to be wild game. Now, with the caveat, the stuff out west is better than the stuff out east. The more you get a deer eating corn, the more inflammatory they are. So corn-fed deer, although they're bigger, they're more inflammatory, so they actually have less benefit. The stuff that really is just perfect is stuff like bison or elk or moose. Something that's just eating plants and grass but not eating corn.
Yeah. Or the mule deer that are eating my neighbor's lawn. That
works as well. So yeah. Mule deer, I think, are preferential grass grazers. But they will eat plenty of corn. So,
you don't have to worry about that in Wyoming. You don't have to worry that the deer are raiding the cornfields, because there aren't any. I mean, I'm sure there may be a cornfield somewhere in Wyoming. I haven't encountered it yet, but I'm sure there are somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's way more sage than there is corn in Wyoming.
Yeah.
It smells better too.
Something that I'm glad that we have you on here, because I want to be careful how I phrase this because I don't want to offend. He says as he kids. We see fully grown adult humans in our country that are behaving in public like spoiled brat toddlers. Dan, do you believe that a good part of that is because their nutrition is so poor that their brains literally, I'm not being facetious, literally cannot function properly?
There's definitely an element to that. I mean, nutrition, all the fast food that people eat is really detrimental to the brain and the body. It's very inflammatory. Sleep patterns suffer as a result, so you don't get restful sleep. People are in pain and miserable. And if you're not getting good quality rest and recharging your body, your systems will fail, and that includes your brain. The other issue is not getting enough good fats into your body. Bad fats are extremely inflammatory and harmful to the body. Extremely harmful and inflammatory to the body. But good fats is what your brain runs on. What's what you're made of. Go ahead.
Can you give us an example of bad fats?
So bad animal fat. So if you have something that eats corn, in particular beef, if you feed it a cow or a bull corn to make it big and fat, the corn is processed differently by the body. And what it ends up doing is creating essentially a reverse omega-3, omega-6 ratio in the fat of that animal. Now, remember, it's not just you are what you eat. You are what you ate. So if you're eating all this inflammatory beef, it ends up causing pain in your body, upset gut. It gives you kind of a brain fog, and it causes heart disease and potential for stroke. But you just feel like crap because your body's constantly inflamed. So the correct way that God intended for cattle to roam the earth is not to eat corn, it's to eat grass. And when you actually feed them the right food, the omega-3, omega-6 ratio is correct, and you're not getting all jacked up from the inflammation from all those fats.
That's great. So what about good fats?
Good fats are MCT oil, coconut oil, and MCT oil is essentially purified coconut oil. You have avocado is great fat, and grass-fed butter is also really good.
There you go.
I didn't know butter could be grass-fed.
Amazingly, yes. Apparently in Ireland, mostly.
Oh, I was over here doing some tech stuff. Did we cover the grass-fed, grass-finished yet?
We didn't, but we can. So
do that.
Grass-finished means that the entire life of the animal, they're eating grass. So you don't want something in your body, in particular beef or whey protein, that has been exposed to a bunch of corn, because you don't know where they are as far as their fats with the omega-3, omega-6. So typically when you look at beef that's to be slaughtered, you have grass-fed, and the FDA in all their wisdom says that you can call something grass-fed even if it's fed corn the last 30 days to fatten them up. Well, in that 30 days, you completely screwed up the omega-3, omega-6 ratio, and you're back to super inflammatory beef. If it's grass-finished, it is fed grass until the day it is slaughtered. And we are probably the first ones to use that term with our whey protein, because what we're doing is we're giving you protein that has never been exposed to corn. So it's been fed grass its entire life. And that's why we call it grass-finished.
And people, a lot of things, I think times we feel helpless, or we feel that, well, what can I do and how can I affect a change? Have you noticed that the food manufacturers are now promoting things with real sugar, right?
They are.
It used to be like, that's just the way they made it. And then they figured out to take this basically corn substitute, hydrogenized corn syrup or whatever, to make it super cheap, to put in soda pop and jelly and ketchup and everything.
Correct.
And they're killing the American people with that garbage. And it's in everything.
Absolutely.
And well, finally, people are getting hip to it. And
Absolutely.
so they're demanding products without it. And
Correct.
you know, we can, if the consumer demands a product, if the consumer goes to, you know, here's the thing, if you go to your grocery store or any store and you say, I want this, and the guy says, well, I don't have it. And you say, okay, fine, I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, what that guy's going to do, if enough people come in and say, hey, I want this, and he has to keep telling them, we don't have it, he's going to contact someone and say, people are asking me for this product or a type of product or whatever. I need that because they keep leaving here and they go somewhere else, and I have a business to run and I need to sell people stuff to keep my doors open. So we can, through education, affect a real serious positive change. But you just, like, when I tell my wife, I was like, look, don't bring home stuff with freaking hydrogenated corn syrup or whatever. What you correct my, what is the corn syrup? It's not hydrogenated. It's
high fructose.
High fructose. Because the other thing is the hydrogenated corn oil or whatever they put in butter.
Yeah, that was a real flail in the 70s and 80s when they used corn oil instead of butter in dairy as a substitute, and thinking that that would be less inflammatory to the heart and cause less heart disease. And the rates of heart disease and heart attacks skyrocketed with that stupidity.
Well, you know, it's the Center for Science and the Public Interest or whatever. That's why we don't have popcorn with coconut oil, made with coconut oil anymore, because it's just too dangerous. So instead, what are they using? They're using corn oil.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Oh, you know, and you know, I'm not, you know, it's like we talked about before off air, you know, my wife, I tell my wife things and she's like, what do you know? You don't know anything. Or, you know,
at the store or in the fridge or whatever.
Yeah.
Shut the toilet seat up.
But, you know, when it comes to, there's two things that we tell our audience, look, cut these things out of your diet. Look at the labels and get them out of your diet. Soy protein, and the corn syrup.
Absolutely.
If you can, you know, cut out those things, you're so far ahead of the game.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, and I'm not being glib, why Democrats, liberals, socialists, whatever you want to call them, progressives, these anti-meat, vegan, vegetarian people, they're so out of control because they're not consuming the proper nutrients for their brains to function properly. And I'm really not being glib. I'm being absolutely serious. You're dealing with people who are mentally handicapped because they are nutritionally handicapped and their brains can't function like they should. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a stretch for me to be able to comment on because, again, you know, nobody's done any studies or testing on that. But, you know, the bottom line is I don't care what you do, who you are, what your belief is. If you're not having the proper diet and proper nutrition and your brain doesn't get what it needs, you're going to be mentally handicapped. You're not going to be running on all cylinders. And it's really important that you get the right fats into your body, into your brain, and that you have enough energy to sustain not only physical, but mental actions. I mean, that's it. So diet and sleep patterns are just hugely important. You know,
if you're living on soybeans and vegetables and bean sprouts,
well, soy is a major evil because it really just the phytoestrogens in the soy, they really screw up your testosterone and your estrogen, whether you're male or female. And if you don't think that we're slave to the body hormone and, you know, I mean, the slave to the hormone body and soul, you're just wrong. I mean, hormones are extremely powerful, and they act on our brain. And when you add exogenous plant hormones, they're going to mess with your thought process. They're going to mess with your mood, and they're going to mess with all sorts of things. So
if you're making decisions not based on fact and reality or history, but you're making decisions based upon emotion. Why do people make decisions based on emotion?
Well, you know me. I'm probably one of the most emotionless, calculating bastards out there. I mean, I'm one of those guys who is really analytical, and that's just the way I'm wired. And I guess there's people who are just emotional and wired the other way. I guess there's a spectrum on everything. But I'm honestly somebody who's pretty cold and calculating scientist. And I can't put myself into that box because I don't have that emotional component. But I also, all I can tell you is anyone I know who makes an emotional decision typically makes the wrong decision.
Well, they're making all their decisions based upon emotions. Essentially, what we're dealing with, and all right, a hormone. All you guys have wives, you know this. That there's a certain point, and when women are all different. And go ahead and write me letters. I don't care. I don't read them anyway. But you have that time when the decisions are all being made based upon emotion. It's probably not all month long, but at least it's part of that month. Imagine dealing with a man who thinks and behaves like a menstruating woman. That is what we're talking about when we talk about people that literally do not have the proper nutrition or ability. They've shortcutted them. They've shortchanged themselves. They've denied themselves what they need. And then we haven't even talked about throwing in all of the chemical cocktails that, watch television for an hour in the evening. And you will come away thinking that you probably have a disease that you need to ask your doctor about.
Well, I have kind of a whole treatise on this if you kind of want to hear it. So, when you think about it, 100 years ago, what was life expectancy?
60 years for a man.
About 50.
50 for a man.
Yeah, 50 for men and women. They were pretty close. So when you think about it, go back to our previous conversation. The human body hasn't changed much. We're supposed to fizzle out and essentially be in the ground at about age 50 genetically. So through modern science, antibiotics, and medicine, we've extended lifespan now to about 80 years old on average. Your body wears out really long before that, and so do your testicles and your ovaries. You hit menopause, men go into what we call andropause. So you see all this litany of testosterone booster and all this all these products that are out there. And the way I like to approach it is this: does your testosterone drop as you get older as a male? Yes, it does. Does your testosterone drop as a female as you get older? Yes. What about hormone replacement therapy and all that? Is that something I advocate? And the answer is absolutely yes, because we're outliving the utility of our sex hormone producing parts. So if you want to feel good, look good, and be good, you want to replace those as you get older. And I do that as a physician all the time for my patients. But you also want to stop sabotaging your own hormones. And again, you want to get off the junk food. You want to get off the antibiotic-ridden meats. You actually want to, if you're lucky enough to live in Wyoming, you want to get yourself a tag, an elk tag, shoot an elk, butcher it, put it in your freezer, because that's the best meat that you're going to get. And if you aren't lucky enough that you can actually hunt for your own food, or not talented enough that you can hunt for your own food, search for clean food that you're going to put into your body. Everyone can learn how to fish and get some wild caught fish. That's something you should be eating. But again, these things are not sabotaging your body because they don't have all these antibiotics and chemicals in their body. So don't sabotage your own testosterone and estrogen by putting in stuff that's full of these chemicals that messes it up. 2, all these testosterone boosters and enhancing supplements that are out there, you know, they might boost you a little bit here and there, but what happens is your body auto regulates. And if it bumps up your testosterone, it'll also probably bump up your estrogen, and it kind of levels off and you don't really get that much gain. If you really are testosterone deficient, or if you're going through menopause as a female, go to somebody who does hormone replacement therapy and get your hormones replaced. There's nothing illegal, immoral, or unethical about it. You're fizzling out. You can get it replaced. It's safe and healthy to do so. So there's nothing wrong with that. So why waste your money on all these supplements that quote unquote boost your testosterone when you can actually just replace your testosterone legally and accurately?
Well, Jared and I, or Jared doesn't really have to because he's only 28 years old, but I have my testosterone therapy is in the garage, and there's about 500 pounds of it.
Absolutely.
And when you, yeah, and that's something that we talked with, you know, we kind of go back and forth between you and Matt, and we're going to have Scott on, you know, the show, and about how, you know, forcing that metabolic change through hard physical exercise, through like
Absolutely.
real legitimate, basically voluntary hardship, voluntary discomfort, and how, you know, the miracle of strength training, when you force the body to grow, and you have to force it to grow. You can't ask it to, you can't, you know, will it to, you have to force it to. And when it does that, when it goes through that metabolic change, yeah, you have things like in a man over 40, you have an increase in testosterone because the body has to do it because you're forcing it to.
Correct. And human growth hormone.
Yeah.
You know, with exercise, you're stimulating testosterone and human growth hormone, and it's important that you do it, but that's why working out works. But what I'm saying is, if you truly have essentially dead testicles, you know, and they're not functioning, then it's legal and ethical to supplement it. But what you're saying is keep it going as long as possible, which is the whole point of exercise and training, you know, and supplementation.
Yeah. And I'm very glad that we're able to do this. I'm glad that we have this platform. I'm glad that we have this opportunity to reach out, because Dan, you know, and we've shared it with you. We've had a lot of our listeners over the years, you know, come back and say, you know what, I was that guy who gave up, who thought, it's all bull crap, or I tried once and I'm not going to try anymore. And we actually have people leading better, healthier, more productive lives now because of the encouragement, and not just the encouragement, but literally the information and education.
Absolutely. And you know what? A lot of it is having a path, because there's so much misinformation out there that it's ridiculous. Fitness doesn't have to be difficult. And again, you know, if you have the right concept behind diet and you end up more of a biohacker and understand that you don't have to be super strict on a diet, but you have to accept the consequences of what you put into your body. Right? If that does that make any sense?
Yeah.
You know, you have to be aware of what you're doing chemically, you know, and remember, timing is also super, super, super important. So let me give you an example of timing. Okay. So you talk about working out, and what happens after a workout? Your testosterone goes up, but so does your human growth hormone, right? So when we have a condition called acromegaly, which is a medical disease where your body's putting out too much human growth hormone, and you end up looking like Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant had acromegaly. How do we test for a pituitary tumor that's causing too much human growth hormone to be released? What we do is we give a sugar load. And if it is a tumor, the sugar will not turn off the human growth hormone. But if it is something else, then it will actually turn off the human growth hormone. Why? Because it spikes insulin. And insulin is the off switch to human growth hormone. So if you put sugar in your body as soon as you're done working out and spike your insulin, all that human growth hormone that you tried to stimulate to grow, you just turned off.
Interesting.
Wow.
So if you take a super low carb whey protein shake like we make, it will not turn off your human growth hormone. It only has one net carb. It has a total of 5 grams of carbs, but 4 of it's fiber. It's only 1 gram of carb, and it's all naturally flavored with monk fruit, and that's why we use it. But the monk fruit is expensive as hell, so a lot of companies don't use it. But again, we weren't looking to sell, $1 billion worth of mass marketed protein. Our stuff is made to transform one person at a time. And, we really care about what we put into that protein. But why? Why did we do it that way? Because it's a post-workout recovery protein, and it will not turn off your HGH. We did that for a very specific reason. You want carbs, yeah, but you also want your HGH to stay high. This is satisfying, and it's all about timing. So you kind of have to know cause and effect of what you put into your body.
And now you freaks and freakettes.
You
Hey, Dan, just recently I was at the website. You guys are updating your packaging.
Yes.
What is that all about?
It's up there. Yeah. So we're now actually in a lot of stores on the West Coast. And store owners just want it a little easier to figure out. I mean, an old one too. To figure out what's on the shelf. So originally we had this is our normal packaging, which
black and red bottles.
Mm. And so it would look like this on the shelf, and then we had the 9mm plus P, which looked almost identical. So we changed it to a clear bottle, blue cap, so that you can tell what's on the shelf.
So if people order that from you from your web store, they're still going to get the original packaging.
So this is the first run that just came off. It didn't even get sealed. So this was just for us to take pictures of. And it is actually on its way as we speak from the manufacturing facility to our distribution facility. So starting probably next week, it'll start shipping out. So with the blue cap, it's the same formula. There's no difference. It's just brand new look, a little bit of a facelift. And then eventually you'll start seeing the other products switch to clear bottles.
Yeah. I like it. It looks cleaner. Yeah, it looks my brain simplified. Maybe that's a telling of how I think, but the more simple things are for me, the easier I can digest them.
Yeah.
Visual, maybe not in my body, but visually.
Yeah. I will tell you that our multivitamin is going through a little bit of a reformulation. It's been kind of irking me. I've always slightly regretted that I didn't increase the amount of folate in the multivitamin, and we just reformulated it, and it's in testing right now. But we went to 400 micrograms of methylfolate in the formula, and that just if you're on a keto diet and you're just not eating a lot of vegetables, you want to make sure you're getting enough folate in your diet. So for the angry gun-toting meat-eating guys that are really not eating their vegetables, we bumped up the folate, so we make sure that you get that in your diet, even if you don't have access to a lot of greens. So that's being reformulated. And then in January, we're going to change the 9mm fat burn formula to a clear capsule. And then we're going to use a different color. We're actually going to use beetroot powder to make it red rather than making it a red capsule. So,
well, there you go. Dwight Schrute will be extremely happy to hear that.
There you go.
We had Jeff Kirkham on from Plan to Survive. Have you, Jared? Have Jeff and Dan ever met?
Dan said, okay, they've crossed paths. I'm sure of it. Jeff is the inventor of the rats tourniquet. Dan, have you guys met?
We have spoken many, many, many times, and we have not physically met.
So you haven't been in the same room together. Okay.
Yeah, we have not.
Get Dan up here to Salt Lake City. We're going to put them in the same room together.
There you go.
That would be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, something that, we hit on, and what, Jeff he's all about, survival and, being a prepared individual and being a ready individual and so forth, and helping people. And one of the things that he hit on was the fact that during any crisis, emergency, but essentially any situation that puts you in an unusual or different or upsets your routine. Human beings are creatures of habit and routine. And the moment that routine is upset, you go into physical and mental stress. And so you look at situations like, the hurricanes, or you can say ice storms, or whatever, just, throw it out there. Your body and mind are both going on, they're both under a tremendous amount of stress that most people never have to actually deal with, and they never prepare to deal with. And from a nutritional standpoint, we pointed this out years ago, but we still need to point it out. The SWAT Fuel supplements, you're like, well, I eat good and I exercise and I don't need any extra. I don't need any supplements. But the fact of the matter is, you want to be prepared for that, especially in that situation where you're forcing your mind and your body to do things that it's not accustomed to doing.
Agreed. And that's why you need to condition yourself. I mean, you're former military, you're former law enforcement. I mean, they don't, and I'm law enforcement as well. They don't just hand you a badge and a machine gun and say, okay, you're ready to take on the world. You have to constantly stress your body. You have to do immediate action drills. You have to do shooting drills, and they're not static drills. I mean, you have to stress your body and then train under stress so that in the end you will perform under stress. Fit is hard to kill, period. And that's what we say. And, whether you're a member of a SWAT team or you're going to be defending your home in the middle of a natural disaster from looters and people who are there, who are going to attempt to relieve you of your supplies that you put and stored for your family to survive, you have to be able to handle that. And that's going to include, no sleep, being uncomfortable, and being physically stressed as well as mentally stressed. So how are you going to perform? You're not going to perform. You're not going to perform in that situation by doing virtual training with Call of Duty. You got to get out there and you need trigger time, and you need to get into the gym, and you need to really do some stuff.
Exactly. So, for those of you guys that out there that are preppers or prepared individuals or whatever you want to call yourself, I know prepper is a pejorative now, thanks to the U.S. media, but things like the SWAT Fuel, the energy formula, the supplement, and so forth. The fact of the matter is you're in any kind of an unusual emergency, whether it lasts for 3 days or whether it lasts for 2 weeks or what have you, your body's going to need something. It's going to need something extra. And that's what you're providing it. You're just helping it out by giving it something. Or let's say you're on a different type of, with what Jared and I are doing, our macro intake and our diet and whatever is adjusted now from when we were on linear progression and so forth. So, I mean, I do the 40 calorie multivitamin every morning, when I get up and I'm doing coffee and so forth. And I don't do the SWAT Fuel all the time, every time I work out. But I do it occasionally. And it's funny. It seems like I train. I on the days that I use the endurance formula, and then I train, and then I finish, and then I shower, and then I have energy, and then I do a cigar time, and I'm raring to go.
Just keep going.
I'm ready to keep talking.
Well, going back to the vitamins are actually the foundation of any sports nutrition program. And it is amazing to me that it is so overlooked. When you look at the nutrient density of, say, a head of broccoli today, 50 years ago, what your grandmother was eating had probably almost 10 times as much nutrients. So you'd literally have to eat about 7 heads of broccoli to get the same nutrient value as your grandmother did when she ate a head of broccoli. And that's because the micronutrients aren't there. And it's a lot due to over farming. But the bottom line is you need to get those micronutrients back into your body. And Paul, have you noticed that when you take the multivitamin, you're actually a little less hungry?
Yeah, I got to watch that because I need to and consume enough, especially protein,
Yeah.
to rebuild.
Well, one of the reasons you're less hungry is because you're getting those micronutrients, and you're not overeating because your body's not getting those micronutrients. So that's why, I like to say that the multivitamin fixes a broken food supply. So you take it 3 times a day, ideally with meals, because it fixes those nutrients. And you take it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It increases the nutrient density of your food, and you end up eating less because you got more. If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Hey, Jared, I don't have any idea how long we've been talking, but I assume that that we've been going for a while.
Yeah, we're about 45 minutes, and we've actually got a couple questions if we want to try.
Yeah, let's do some questions before we let Dan go.
Okay, this is from YouTube. It says Proud Navy Dad, SWO is the username. What about guys who work nights with a varying schedule? And I know, Dan, you have a lot of experience with this. So how did you stay healthy?
Well, so nights are really difficult because you're battling cortisol. And what you want to do is you want to be on an eating schedule so that you don't have anything in your body that you're going to turn to storage fat when you go to sleep. And it becomes really tricky if you have broken sleep, like if you can take naps at night. But what I try and do is intermittent fasting. And I will try and eat, say, between noon and 6 p.m. And whether I'm working night shift or not, usually, I would get off night shift, I'd sleep in the morning, and then I'd eat all my food during that time during the day. But anything you eat at night typically will go into storage fat, and it's very difficult. The key thing with night shift is sleep patterns. The body tends to like to sleep in 90-minute increments, which is tied to your REM cycle. So if you have to be up at night, you want to make sure that you're sleeping during the day in 90-minute increments. So you're looking at 90 minutes, 3 hours, 4.5 hours, 6 hours, 7.5 hours, and 9 hours in duration. And if you have broken sleep, you can actually go to sleep in 1.5-hour naps. As long as it totals up, you're a lot better off than if you get woken up in between. So it's kind of a trick. But those 90-minute increments are the most restful sleep cycles. So, if you're going to go to sleep and you can only sleep, if you can sleep for, say, 4 hours, you're better off only sleeping 3 hours and then catching another 90-minute nap later.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. We've talked about that before. So obviously I understand. We do have a lot of new listeners that are listening. I hope this is valuable for you guys. If you have
one other thing, Jared.
Yep.
So at night, you have a cortisol spike, and that typically is between 3 and about 4:30 in the morning. What that is it's your body releasing stress hormones that are tied with the sun coming up. And normally it would, 100,000 years ago, it would signal your body to start waking up so that you would get up with the sun so you don't get eaten, and you know what's going on. So it's just the normal wake up. But at the same time, it stresses the body. And if you're already up, it makes you crave food, in particular fat, carbs, and salt. And that's how we pack on a lot of weight. With night shift workers, you tend to see people get fatter over the years. It's because of cortisol. So, So if you look at either the fat burn formula that we make or the endurance formula, it does suppress some of that hunger from the cortisol surge. So that's something I would continually take when I was on night shift. Plus, it keeps you awake and firing on all cylinders mentally. But it really stops that snacking behavior to stay awake.
Right.
That's super dangerous.
Oh, I've worked. I'm so fortunate and glad and pleased, happy to not have to do midnight shift anymore.
Yeah,
I don't have to. I've done it. I've done, for years. I did night shift when I was, and you can get away with that crap when you're young, but the older you get, the harder it is. Oh, yeah. And it's tough. I actually worked one where it was I did 2 weeks straight, 14 days of work, midnight shift, 7 p to 7 a, and then I had 2 weeks off. So I mean, that's kind of a crazy cyclic nightmare right there.
Oh yeah, and you lose a couple of days just recovering from the madness.
Yeah, like the first day after you're like off is just basically like a wasted day because you're
it's a flail.
You're a weird slug the whole
Luckily,
time.
I only had to do midnight shift for like maybe 2 years max at the casino. But it's interesting is that I would work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. then go to another job at 7:30, get off at 4, and then go train. I don't know how I found time to train to fight. Then I fought, and so it was 11 to 7, 7:30 to 4, 4 to probably 7 or 8ish. Then I would sleep and then wake up and go back to work at 11. Not really sure.
Well, you spend a lot of time sleeping at work too, so
that is true.
You did get those power naps while you're working. So
an hour and a half. Hour and a half.
You can do things. If you want to do crazy things, this is the old man going to talk to you guys. If you want to do crazy stuff, do it while you're young. That's why people do that. Because by the time
amazing
you're
how much
50, you're not going to want to do that. Yeah, you're not going to want to do that. You just, although when you are 50, you like to take naps more often. So, what other questions do we have from the peanut gallery, Jared?
I don't want to go too much longer. We're already 50 minutes in, and I know Dan's got something else to do pretty soon. But there's one more. There's actually 2 questions that kind of tie in together. One of them's from me. I remember you and I, Dan, having a conversation at some point in time where you were explaining to me that not every single aspect of soy is bad. There's actually something that you can get out of the plant that actually benefits your body. So that's first part of the question. The second part is from either YouTube or Discord. I can't remember which one, but it's basically what makes a good diet or what makes a good nutrition plan.
Sure. Well, the answer for the soy question is really easy. Soy is very efficient at extracting minerals from the ground, from the soil. And it's how we actually use soy to get our minerals that we put into our multivitamin. What's bad about soy is the protein, but you can actually use the soy plants to get those minerals from the ground. And they're very efficient in that. So you end up extracting it from the soy plant, and it's a very easy and fairly natural way to get your minerals. So you'll see on our 40 caliber multivitamin, we have to list it contains soy, but it actually does not contain any soy protein. It's just the minerals that we chelate from soy. So in that purpose, it is useful.
Well, the best thing to do with soy is to turn it into candles and burn it.
Pretty much.
Yep. Yeah, I'm totally down with soy candles.
Yeah.
Set them on fire, burn them.
I can't. I hate to say it. I really can't get into tofu. Too much like phlegm.
It's like phlegm. What?
That's what slaves eat. It keeps them placated. Yeah. We haven't even talked about the estrogen spikes that makes you all like, emotional and stuff. Sitting there crying at freaking puppy commercials.
The other thing is for women, whether, the women that are listening there, the hot flashes that all these women are complaining about, typically when they're perimenopausal or menopausal, I hate to say it, but most of those are not true hot flashes. What those are is, when you're sweating and whatnot, it's actually a sign of testosterone deficiency. Testosterone supplementation in women is way better studied and longer studied than estrogen supplementation. And most of those symptoms that women are getting when they're irritable, they can't sleep at night, heat and cold intolerance is actually testosterone deficiency. And testosterone supplementation in women is, again, it's protective, it's ethical, it's good. And if you're having those symptoms, you don't have to suffer. So you can actually supplement your testosterone as the ovaries kind of fizzle, but you'll feel a whole lot better. So there's nothing wrong with that.
And if the woman is getting testosterone injections and also she has a son, the son will appreciate it.
Well, there you go.
I do want to move on to the.
So the second question was what again?
So the second question is, and this is generalized, it's customized per person, but if we can get a kind of general baseline on what makes a decent diet or nutrition plan for the average person.
Well, I think the average person needs to just be a beginning biohacker and understand that when you put sugar into your body, whether it's in the form of potatoes, table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, rice, what have you, if you eat enough of it, it spikes your insulin level and it tells your body to store all your nutrients as fat. So that's the first thing you need to remember. Now, fats are interesting because your body runs on fat very efficiently, and it's actually quite good for you. Don't be afraid of fat. Don't be afraid of protein. One of the diets that I think is very good is the keto diet, or any ketogenic diet is where you're limiting your sugar so that you're running off of protein and fat. The body is really meant to run on protein and fat. And when you think genetically or you think through purpose, why do we run on, or why do we eat carbohydrates? And we eat carbohydrates because it makes you store fat so that you survive longer and you survive a winter. If you already have enough fat, you want to limit the amount of carbs you eat. Eat more stuff that's difficult to digest, like broccoli, cauliflower. Eat asparagus. Cabbage is great. String beans. They have a lot of fibrous. They have a lot of fiber in it, so you're not really going to digest it, but it's going to fill you up. Now, when you look at like refried beans, you look at the beans like typically you'll see in Southwestern food. They have a lot of carb and protein in it, but they will spike your insulin level. So you want stuff that is typically green, leafy, and harder to digest because it will fill you up, keep you from being hungry. But you want to mix that with good fats like coconut oil, MCT oil, or grass-fed butter. And you want to mix that with protein. So whether you're eating game, you're eating fish, what have you, these are all good proteins you want to mix it with. So you want to decrease the easily digested stuff that will spike your insulin. Hey, Jake, come on over here. I've got to introduce you to Jake Sheffield. So he is one of the biggest and baddest SoCal Coyotes. He's one of our test members for SWAT Fuel. You're
Squad down
actually on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
And he's also a former Marine. So
Jake, what's up, man?
How you guys doing?
Good. Nice to
So anyway, the SoCal Coyotes and Jake are really wonderful in that they're a professional football team out here in Southern California, and they do so much work for us as far as product testing. But a lot of them are, we're talking Marines, we're talking trigger pullers, and welcome to the gun.
When you said Coyote, I thought he helped import illegal aliens.
It's a little different.
You got to be careful using the term coyote in California.
Well, absolutely. But these guys, they spend their life defending the shield of honor.
All right. Well, hey, cool. And for those of you who are just listening on the radio, close your eyes and imagine. Just close your eyes and imagine.
go to the video. It'll be on our YouTube channel.
YouTube. We love YouTube. No, not really. Yeah, right. It's okay. All right. I think we've exhausted. We're about an hour now. Is that true?
Yes, we are exactly 58 minutes and 25 seconds.
And in case you didn't know, the plan that Jared has secretly is to cut this interview into two parts and give one interview during the public one and one interview during the Student of the Gun grad program. So you may be thinking to yourself, how do I become a member of the Student of the Gun grad program? That is an excellent thought, and I'm glad that you had it. Go to getsotg.com, read, follow the instructions, and come and hang out with us. You won't regret it.
Yes. And when you do sign up, the page that you land on after you sign up, there is a video from every member of the Student of the Gun family. It's a nice thank you video that you can just take probably 30 seconds to a minute to watch. We just wanted to send you a personalized message as a thank you for becoming a member, because the grad program is a family.
It's a big extended family. And like most families, it has some serious characters in it. Dan, when are you coming back up to Wyoming to shoot rifles? That's a great question. I'm glad I had it.
It should be soon. And you know what? We have to plan that hunt because I need an elk.
But dude, you should have already been planning, Broseph, because they're already taking elk out of the mountains right now.
Oh, absolutely. No, we're going to have to plan for next year, but you know, because I didn't draw a tag.
Duck on it.
Yep. So
I
applied.
Damn the king and his permission slips.
Right.
Yeah.
His Majesty's deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But yeah, I applied for a tag, no tag. So
we've got about, I would say, a minute. I'm going to cue the music up. We got about a minute until it's time to close it out, Dad. So anything you got to say, let's say it.
I like cheese.
all right. Well, listen, I'm going to throw something out there.
Go ahead.
So if you're not exercising and you're listening to this, fit is hard to kill. I challenge you to watch your diet for 90 days and go to the gym or work out. And I mean work out for real. Like, give me 45 minutes of your time, 3 days a week. And if you don't change and you're not better after the last 90 days, not only will I be shocked, but you know, I don't think you actually did it, because I don't know anyone who works out 45 minutes, 3 days a week, and it doesn't benefit.
If you don't, write to P.O. Box 405, Boulder, Colorado, and we'll send you a complete refund of today's purchase price.
And thank you for being on the show, Dan.
Yes, Dan, we appreciate it. If you guys want to save some money, go to swatfuel.com, use the promo code SOTG, save yourself some money. If you're a current grad program member, go to the community partner discounts page on the student lounge. You can get a little bit bigger discount. And remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.
All right, we're off on that.
And we're out.
I'm going.
Awesome.
We're still live, though.
Uh-oh. We're out, but we're live?
Out, but we're live. So
We're out live.
So don't say fuck is what you're telling me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything you want to say to the audience before we disconnect?
You know, I just hope we can motivate some people to get up off the couch. I mean, the heaviest weight you'll ever lift is your ass out of the couch.
Amen. Well, I don't know. I got heavy squats today, and that's pretty damn heavy.
You had to get off the couch first, though.
And that's how everything starts.
My problem is there's one gym in town, and all their stuff's broken.
Well, what about the gym that's in your garage?
I don't have a garage.
Oh,
He says he's not allowed to use it.
I know somebody who does.
Here's the thing: being 320 pounds and lifting heavy weight gives you hemorrhoids.
It's
so
okay. It's all right. Yeah, Zach is afraid that lifting heavy weight is going to give him hemorrhoids.
because it did
Well, it happened one time.
twice.
Twice?
Actually, one time it popped, and I had them for 6 months afterwards.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, holy hell.
We are live, though, so the whole world knows now.
Yeah.
So,
Walk with pride.
It's a legitimate medical condition.
that's right.
Well,
it's a legitimate strategy.
you still want to be fit for the fight.
Yeah, I know.
But do you want to fight to be fit?
No.
All right, I'm out. I got nothing else to say. Thank you guys for joining us for the live stream. I appreciate it.
Woo!
In the Discord channel, thank you for being grad program members. We really appreciate it. If you're watching live on the YouTube channel and you're a freeloader, shame on you. You should become a grad program member. Thank you. Love you. Bye.